Hey everyone, as John mentioned, I'm Timotius, or Tim. I'm from Stony Brook University, and I'm an organizer at Hackathon. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about avoiding hacker burnout. And I know there was a question about this earlier, so I hope that my presentation today is going to do that. Whoever asked that question, it'll answer some of those questions. Okay. So I've been to a lot of hackathons, but for this specific talk, I'm going to talk to you guys about one that happened early in my career. So this is MHAC's fall 2015. We had just arrived at Ann Arbor, and I had slept through the majority of the bus right there, but I still couldn't help myself from passing out again. So what happened? So this was one of the first times I did back-to-back hackathons, and I was already exhausted from just the travel there. Next, I had a ton of schoolwork built up before the hackathon that I needed to do, and lastly, I was already stuck on a problem with my hack, and I was already feeling a bit stressed. So this was a classic case of burnout, which is physical and emotional exhaustion caused by excessive stress. So burnouts happen all the time outside of hackathons, but being placed in a stressful environment such as hackathons leads to a higher risk of them happening. So now you all may be thinking, okay, that's cool and all, but that's really more of a personal problem. So unless it happens to me, I really shouldn't worry about it, right? You might also think that people don't really go to that many hackathons for it to really matter. Well, it really does. And that's because burnouts usually affect the newer or even the most passionate hackers out there, because they're the ones that usually go to the most hackathons a season. Next, burnouts is also a large factor in why people quit hackathons, which is something that we really want to prevent. And lastly, as hackathons become more and more commonplace, hackers attending consecutive hackathons will become more common. All right, so the point of this talk is really to give you guys tips for both as an organizer as well as a community leader on what to do to avoid hacker burnout. And for these specific tips are specifically for your events. And the focus on these tips is helping your hackers recover for after the event. So tip number 1, have sleeping arrangements. So I think most of you all know that sleeping is important. So this is something that I don't need to reiterate. But having a sleeping room is already fantastic enough. But things like air mattresses are awesome. All right, tip number 2, try to organize a yoga class. So physical activities are easy solutions to de-stress any attendee. And yoga in particular is great because it reduces stiffness and soreness. Next, try to move away from energy drinks. So energy drinks are great for last-minute pushes, but it will impact the person's recovery later on. Next, try to end your hackathons earlier in the day. So I think for most of us, you end the day on Sunday. So what I saw is that if you aim to end your hackathon around 1 to 2 p.m., it will give ample enough time for the hackers to travel and go home and recover. Next are some tips for your community. So by community, I really mean your hacker clubs, your computing societies, your online hacker groups, or any groups of friends that you go to hackathons with. So while you can't personally control their physical well-being, you can help them with their time management as well as prep them for hackathons. So the most important thing really is to plan out your hackathons as a group. This might seem obvious at first, but it's something that we rarely do with other people. So one thing that you can do that I've tested out this spring was having a calendar of quizzes and tests as well as hackathons that we were targeting so that people would know that if they were going to this hackathon, they would need to study for a certain test beforehand and vice versa. Next, plan out travel ahead of time. So again, this is something very obvious, but we rarely do with other people. But doing this, especially earlier before the hackathon, helps relieve a lot of stress because then the people don't have to worry about finding a way to get to the hackathon in the first place. So a possible idea for this would be just creating a Facebook event for the people from your school that are going to certain events. And lastly, and most importantly, try to know the signs of burnout. And if you see someone exhibiting any of these signs, please reach out to them. It may not be burnout, but it won't hurt them to check in on how they're doing. Now, again, hackathons are fun, and it's our job to really help others enjoy them safely. Thank you.